IIT से नहीं हो तो कोई आपको देखता भी नहीं है।
I feel you bro.
हाँ आई थिंक थोड़ा आज चेंज हो रहा है,
बहुत चेंज हो चुका है।
हाँ पर बैक देन तो यार IIT IIM नहीं हो तो like, तू कौन? Our first year I think we did 15-20 lakh, 24.
What was last year?
Last year was something under 400, about 380 this year.
Phenomenal.
They were like यार ये तो बहुत अच्छा हुआ, सेल्स भी अच्छा, ब्रांडिंग भी अच्छा, क्वालिटी अच्छा है, तो हैरी पॉटर के साथ करो.
Damn,
and then,
that's a big one.
Yeah, and then that starts rolling. Harry, then Lord of the Rings came, then Disney, then WWE, and then we had 7 IPL teams at a point. Once you are good at something, then it starts snowballing.
Who was that someone?
AIB was the first one.
Nice.
And
Tanmay is always a nice guy.
He said, "Yaar, I have so much views, but I want AIB to be on my fans, so we should sell T-shirts based on the videos. जो भी वीडियो में आएगा, जो भी जोक है, वो जोक टी-शर्ट पे छपवाएंगे और एंड में लिंक होगा. ब्रांडिंग, फ्री eyeballs, trust was built, and I think this was also a segue to get Warner Brothers to look at us. Friends and Big Bang Theory are die hard. That's the break we got.
And can you help me like with economics of a store?
Exact number था 1.75 lakh है, and the quality, price point and design is just so easy to pick up that you most likely will walk out with something. So we have high walk-ins and high conversions, and that's why our stores do really well.
जब बात आती है इंडिया में सक्सेसफुल कंज्यूमर ब्रांड बनाने की, तो कोई एक मैजिक फॉर्मूला नहीं होता है, लेकिन द सोल स्टोर का इनक्रेडिबल जर्नी हर एस्पायरिंग एंटरप्रेन्योर को सुनना चाहिए. एंड गेस व्हाट, कंपनी सिर्फ कुछ गिने चुने लाख से स्टार्ट हुई, आज ये एक पॉप कल्चर मर्चेंडाइजिंग किंग बन गई है. और ये सब बिना कोई फैंसी डिग्रीज के, ना कोई डीप पॉकेट्स, बस बहुत सारा जोश. ये एपिसोड एक परफेक्ट ब्लूप्रिंट है टू अंडरस्टैंड आज की डेट में एक ऑनलाइन क्लोथिंग बिजनेस कैसे शुरू कर सकते हैं, वो कौन से चैलेंजेस फेस कर सकते हैं, एंड हाउ टू मेक अ ब्रांड जो कस्टमर्स बेहद प्यार करते हैं. सो चलिए सुनते हैं द सोल स्टोर के फाउंडर वेदांग पटेल की कहानी. बिजनेस टॉकीज अब स्पॉटिफाई और एप्पल पॉडकास्ट पर भी अवेलेबल है. हाउ डिड यू गेट स्टार्टेड विद दिस?
I don't have any great story like most, like founders, they saw a problem and they wanted to fix it. Mine was very selfish, I'll be honest. I'm a mechanical engineer because I genuinely love tinkering with physics. Yeah, all of this. So I've always kind of followed my passion. Post mechanical engineering is the first time I think I didn't. I'm good with numbers. So I started doing finance.
So mechanical engineering and numbers से थोड़ा हिला हुआ है.
हाँ पर numbers तो ये सब logic and numbers and flow ही है. At the end of the day हिला तो हुआ है. Like that is the one time like I did disservice to myself, I feel. क्योंकि I wasn't cut out for it. 2 years in finance. Okay.
So आप मैकेनिकल पढ़ के फाइनेंस करने
हाँ.
What were you doing in finance? कहाँ काम कर रहे थे?
So I was at Resvista, the financial analyst. We got promoted to a senior analyst and had an associate offer. First guy to get it fast. So if you are good with numbers, I think you're good with finance. It has helped a lot in the business. I learned so much, which there's no business book like this is. You need to know finance. You need to know HR. There's that. Yeah. So I think working somewhere really helps you a lot, and if it's a well-run organization, you understand the importance of culture, etc. And
also, if the organization is not very well run, you end up learning everything.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah. So did that for a couple of years, and then that's why I met my co-founders, and we realized कि ये तो नहीं करना है. It was we were good at it, but we didn't enjoy it one bit. Just started the business really humbly and small. Looking back, I would say it's a bad idea. I'm going to be honest. Like logically, it's a very bad idea. But sometimes when that lottery ticket hits and that illogical idea works out, then you're like, wow, so brave, and you're like, but you're such a genius or whatever people will say. But actually, we were lucky.
Okay, so was there a trigger point? All of you guys met in the same company. ऐसे कुछ हुआ क्या जिससे लगा कि यार टी-शर्ट बिजनेस शुरू करना है?
गरीबी. Honestly, गरीबी. कुछ सेविंग्स नहीं थे.
अच्छा, आइडिया पता नहीं था लेकिन जॉब छोड़ दिया.
आइडिया पता था. ड्यूरिंग द जॉब ओनली लाइक हम कैंटीन में बैठते थे एंड वी वर लाइक कुछ तो करना है. द टिपिकल, एंड आई रियली फील वो बहुत नाइव है. बट कुछ तो करना था, और क्या करना है तो फिर पैशन. पॉप कल्चर तो पैशन है, उसमें यू कांट फेक इट.
बस आपका
सबका था, मेरा थोड़ा ज़्यादा ही कुछ है. अनहेल्दी मे बी बट इसमें कुछ करना था एंड अपॉर्चुनिटी तो था बिकॉज इफ़ यू गो टू फैशन स्ट्रीट सब फेक्स बिकते हैं वहाँ पे और अगर कुछ ओरिजिनल चाहिए तो इंडिया में मिलता भी नहीं है एंड अगर मिलता है तो 1,000 रुपया 2,000 रुपया का मिलता है वो अनअफोर्डेबल
बहुत एक्सपेंसिव है हाँ.
उस टाइम पे 1,000 और 2,000 तो बहुत था यू नो तो वी डिसाइडेड कि यार ये तो अपॉर्चुनिटी है कुछ चालू करते हैं टी शर्ट सेलिंग में भी बजट में फिट हो रहा था क्योंकि आई वॉज द लोएस्ट कॉमन डिनोमिनेटर कि यार कितना पैसा डाल सकते हैं मैंने देखो सब मिला के एग्जैक्ट नंबर था 1.75 लाख है तो दूसरे लोग ने बोला ठीक है इतना डाल देते हैं तो ये डाला शुरू किया लिटरली एक मेरे को फाउंडर आदित्य के घर पे ऐसे एक कबर्ड था तो वहाँ पे हमने टी शर्ट ऑर्डर किया उस पर प्रिंट किया और ऐसे एक कबर्ड में हमने डाल दिया था
Which was the first brand that you started to
उस टाइम पे देखो वी वर जस्ट यू नो 23 ईयर ओल्ड कोई लाइसेंस तो नहीं देने वाला था 23 ईयर ओल्ड सो कुछ विटी लाइंस थे बस फनी लाइंस
quotes and
हाँ जस्ट
funky stuff
and but we did it really well you know good precision and all at least what we thought at that time अभी देख के यार embarrassment होता है पर we didn't lose out on what the aim is कि pop culture तो करना ही है तो every other week and month we used to go and email Disney, email Warner Brothers, even like comedians, you know, Kenny Sebastian, Tanmay Bhatt, and eventually someone answered.
Who was that someone?
AIB was the first one.
Aha, nice.
And
Tanmay is always a nice guy.
He said, "Yaar, I have so much views, but I want AIB to be on my fans, so we should sell T-shirts based on the videos. जो भी वीडियो में आएगा, जो भी जोक है, वो जोक टी-शर्ट पे छपवाएंगे और एंड में लिंक होगा. Branding, free eyeballs, trust was built, and I think this was also a segue to get Warner Brothers to look at us. And they said that देखो we won't give you DC and those Harry Potter and all, that's too big, पर Big Bang Theory and Friends कोई नहीं करता, कर लो. But a fan knows how big that is.
Yes.
You know, corporates may not, and we were like chalega.
Friends, sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Friends and Big Bang Theory are die hard. Yeah. That's the break we got. And one of the biggest differentiators which we had is when you get these licenses and you sign all these contracts.
कैसे चलता है यार licenses ऐसे कैसे मिलता है? How does a deal look like if I want to partner with a friend?
Lot of pages and lawyers and all, but हाँ पैसा तो है पर बिग बैंग थ्योरी और फ्रेंड्स के लिए उन्होंने ज़्यादा नहीं मांगा क्योंकि दे थॉट द पोटेंशियल इज इन देयर
ओके सो इज देयर यूजुअली कि यार वो बोलते हैं आपको अपफ्रंट पेमेंट देना पड़ेगा या मिनिमम गारंटी देना पड़ेगा हाउ डज इट वर्क एंड देन यू गाइस वर स्मॉल आल्सो राइट यू आर जस्ट गेटिंग स्टार्टेड
you have to give an upfront payment or minimum guarantee. मतलब देखो, the way these things typically work is you have to pay a percentage of sales as royalty fee.
Fair.
Suppose 10% है. I'll just give an arbitrary number. If it's 10%, then if you sell worth 500 rupees, you have to give them 50 rupees.
Right.
Very simple. Some are lower percentages, a lot of them are higher percentages.
Sure.
But you also promise them कि whatever my sales are, minimum I'll give you say 10 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 1 crore.
उसको minimum guarantee बोलते हैं.
उसको minimum guarantee
And that is yearly होता है कि पूरा साल के लिए होता है या
different structures, but usually yearly minimum guarantees is the thumb rule. So we got these, we had these MGs. और what they give you is also एक style guide जहाँ पे सब designs होते हैं. अच्छा. And you're supposed to use the style guide. But हम इंडस्ट्री से तो नहीं है. Like we didn't even know कि ये norm होता है. Style guide से उठाओ, Control C, Control V करो. You know?
You're a salesman then. आप क्या ही कर रहे हो
तो we just redesigned everything. And they were like यार ये एफर्ट कौन लेता है? पर ठीक है हम अप्रूव कर लेंगे डिजाइन अच्छा है इंडिया में तो ऐसे ही बिकेगा. So we tailored it to what a fan would want, what an Indian fan would want, and it did really well. And that was the start of how we got started. And then they were like, यार ये तो बहुत अच्छा हुआ, sales भी अच्छा, branding भी अच्छा, quality अच्छा है, तो हैरी पॉटर के साथ करो.
Damn,
and then,
that's a big one.
Yeah, and then that that starts rolling. Harry, then Lord of the Rings came, not much response there, and then Disney. Then Disney, then WWE, and then we had 7 IPL teams at a point. Once you are good at something, then it starts snowballing. Yeah.
All right, understood. यार Friends आ गया, Big Bang Theory आ गया. But usually for a business like yours, where fandom based brand है ना कि बहुत सारे brands के साथ collaborate करो, खुद का भी brand है, if I'm not wrong, right? बट फॉर अ फैंडम ब्रांड दैट यू आर सेलिंग, आपका 100 रुपीज़ अगर रेवेन्यू है, आपका कॉस्ट स्ट्रक्चर कैसे दिखता है?
So it's obviously changed year on year, you know. पहले जो था वो आज अलग हो, बीच में तो लॉस भी बना रहे थे, तो
that's okay.
वो फंडिंग हो जाता है तो like all P&Ls change after funding. No, so I think let me say the starting days, which might be helpful to people, you know. One, तो we knew कि our total kitty was some 5 lakhs plus change. तो जो भी बिजनेस बनाना था इससे ही बनाना है, तो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी, कैश फ्लोज एंड ऑल हैड टू बी पॉजिटिव एंड रियली पॉजिटिव. In fact, you know, we had a thing that we wanted to reach 100 crores in about 7 years or 6 years. ऐसे कुछ, you know, पेपर
2021.
हाँ, पेपर पे जो भी गोल डाल देते हैं वो हो जाता. So by I think by 2018 we were at about 30 crores. So with 5 lakhs we had made it to a 30 crore business.
Phenomenal.
And that's when we got our first round of funding. Because I remember, and I'll tell you why we took it. क्योंकि Game of Thrones का MG बहुत ज़्यादा था, पर Game of Thrones बहुत hot था.
Yes.
तो we were like, यार ये पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे, चलो मार्केट में जाते हैं. And then we easily got funded at that point because online business that makes money was unheard of. So that happened, and then, you know, then we started burning. But let me tell you the early days P&L. I think if we had 100 rupees, our COGS was about 40 rupees. So
COGS में क्या क्या?
Cost of goods में सिर्फ cost of
T-shirt,
the product, whatever. Here today तो T-shirt, jeans, shoes, everything. But cost of the product. Then you would have about some royalty which you give those people. So our royalty on a blended level at that time would have been about, I think, 7 or 6%, because some portion was still our own, you know, non-licensed stuff like witty lines or like a solid T-shirt, solid jeans like I'm wearing, so on and so forth. Then you have your logistics and your warehousing. That would be about, say, mostly our business was only online then. So 15%.
This is shipping cost and
warehouse, also warehouse.
Shipping,
so 15, and with the warehouse manpower maybe 20% हो जाता था.
60%.
And that's 6% of
66%.
66%. And then marketing, that's one thing that we're really well known for. So that used to be about 15% or so, 20%.
Oh, that's it. 15-20%. Okay.
Today it's lesser actually.
Okay. Even lesser.
Yeah. Today I think I'll just tell you, our latest number was 7%.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think मुझे सेंस हो रहा है कि
7% on performance, but then branding सब मिला के 10%. क्योंकि हार्दिक पांड्या etc. also they take a buck or two, you know. Yeah.
So 14% profit essentially, 24% profit back in the day.
So देखो
fixed cost है.
Yeah, fixed cost. So about 10% fixed cost, so about 15%.
Nice.
हो जाता.
और आप फर्स्ट 2 साल में कहाँ तक पहुँच गए? 2016, 2017.
Let me. Our first year, I think we did 15-20 lakh, फिर 80 lakh, 1.6 CR, 3.5 CR, I think 5 CR, 10-14 CR, ऐसे कुछ now.
So you're almost doubling every year.
24.
What was last year?
Last year was something under 400, about 380 CR.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. And now, let's see what this year is. Yeah, I can make any Excel projection, but yeah, the world is very unpredictable. Yeah. You can, you know, like, the funniest thing I felt is like when we make these business plans and it's a mandate for all listed companies, I mean listed or even funded companies to, you know, give guidance, and sometimes our like the person on the board will be like, no, why is this moving by 1%? And that in the end of 12 months, that's going down by 0.5%. Why? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
जब होगा तब देख लेंगे.
There are too many variables in the real world, then you can put on any Excel sheet.
तो अभी आप 30 crores around पहुंच गए थे for Game of Thrones. You went on to raise external capital.
Yeah.
What was the journey from there? कैसे आपने reach out किया? किससे raise किया आपने?
Actually, they reached out.
Perfect.
You know, we just hired a banker saying that, you know, maybe we need help raising money because we don't know the VC world. IIT से नहीं हो तो कोई आपको देखता भी नहीं है. You know?
I feel you, bro.
I think थोड़ा आज change हो रहा है.
बहुत change हो चुका है.
हाँ, पर back then तो यार IIT IIM नहीं हो तो like तू कौन? You know. So we got a banker, and the next day they only reached out, RPSG, saying we like your company, let's meet. And then so on and so forth, because the banker's also doing his work, like 5-6 people were there, and we got offers from a few. Very fast. It all of a sudden changed really fast. RPHG वाले ने बहुत सही बोला, like, you know, long term सोचो, ये वो brand बनाना है. He didn't ask कि next year क्या होगा, वो सब. He was just like, what decisions are we going to take to get to 30 crores था ना, तो what decisions are we going to take to get to 500 crores. All of those decisions which I remember then were all wrong, but वो at least सोच ऐसे थी. दूसरे लोग थोड़ा myopic थे कि क्या सैलरी लोगे आप, ये वो. एंड आई वाज लाइक, यार क्या बात कर रहे हो, यू नो, बड़ा सोचो. So they weren't the highest valuation, but they were the best guys, so we chose them.
How much did you raise?
10 crores. We diluted, I think, about 7-8%, and we raised 10 crores.
That was 2018.
18.
What happened? पैसे आ गया बैंक में. What changed?
Then nothing had yet changed, because, you know, our business was already a decent size, so this money wasn't groundbreaking as it is a lot, yeah. For someone who was living credit card to credit card and all, it was a lot, but it wasn't groundbreaking. So nothing changed in the business fundamentally. Still ran it as we should have. Got that Game of Thrones license.
How much did that cost?
Again, I can't tell, and I don't even remember. But all of these things, yaar, notice aa jayega. So then pandemic hit, and that's when things got a little bad, because, you know, you had deployed all this money, and we were then thinking that we will raise money in about April, May 2020 is when we'll start raising money for next round. So pandemic hit, we had, I think, about 50-70 lakh in the bank. I think the money we owed people was a lot more than that. The money we owed was even more.
But pandemic में आपका business impact क्यों हुआ? आपका तो majorly online था ना?
I'll tell you. When all of a sudden your revenue stops now, that is a jolt to the system. And you don't have a lot of cash in the bank, then it's a jolt to the system. Because you still have to pay rent, you still had to pay salary, you still had to you still had all those payables. And I have one thing, yaar, if you owe someone money, give it. You know, especially most people are like, the vendors we worked with, etc., are all small vendors at that time, you know, and they also have their karigars to give, etc.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to do.
But halt क्यों हुआ business pandemic में आपका?
बैन हो गया था ना, स्टॉप हो गया था, स्टे एट होम.
बट आपका तो ऑनलाइन बिजनेस
नहीं, बट March 15-20th पे just everything stopped except essential. And
so people were not able to shop also online.
कुछ नहीं, घर पे थे. Ironically, every week it was like almost like a Game of Thrones episode where you don't know what's going to happen, because decision, I don't know if you remember, I do, because काफी traumatic था. You know, seeing your business dismember. But every week it was like a 7-day lockdown, then it opens, 15-day lockdown, extended 30-day. So like so on and so forth. So you just had hope, but the money kept going away. And then luckily it opened for online businesses, and casual wear took off क्योंकि लोग घर पे थे. So there we started doing well. We made money also.
कितने टाइम के लिए business pause में था?
45-60 days.
So आपका revenue zero, fixed cost stays where it is?
Fixed cost stays where it is, but a lot of your payables also continue going out. So people you owed money anyway, like you would
वो cycle of business.
But the receivables were people who owed us didn't give. You know?
Crazy times.
I think these are the times that make a person.
Absolutely.
You know, a person is not who they are, but what they do, I feel. But it worked out, yaar. And when it works out, you're like, wow.
All worked out eventually.
Yeah.
60 days, pandemic में आपका फिर से markets खुल गया. What kind of surge did you see?
The surge wasn't high, but there was no marketing cost. There was no need to give discounts, no need to give sales. So we saw very high profitability through the period. So we generated a lot of cash in that 2020 period.
Very nice.
So we didn't have to raise again.
तो आप पैसे raise करने के बाद burn करना शुरू हो गया था क्या तभी से?
I would say investment. Like we opened our first store and stuff like
Offline
that.
शुरू हो गया था तब?
For one store, you know that in
the church, the
Bandra.
Bandra one.
Yeah. So things of that nature started. And then we had 3 more stores. The landlords were not helpful. सबका rent जा रहा था, सबका capex, you know, inventory at the store, but stores still didn't open for very long, you know, so that all those hits, but it worked out. And then Elevation came on board.
ये कब था?
21. Business did well. Elevation came on board.
Pandemic is over.
Pandemic was still going on, I think 21, but we were doing well, and these again didn't choose the highest valuation. Deepak Gaur and Chirag Chadda, both, oh my, phenomenal people. All of these people are now close friends. Chirag was over a few weeks ago here. Yeah. And again, just chose the right mindset and went ahead with it. Again, thank God I did that. That's when about 70-75 CR came into the business, and that was real money. There we started burning on various marketing activities. I think we used influencers. We started burning on making ad videos and putting on those videos out, TV ads also. And we did a couple, like everything was tried, and thing is all stacked up to a very large amount. And within a year, all that money was just gone.
So from being a profitable company to raising capital of about $10 million, 75 crores?
Yeah, 10 million.
Right? अब 75 crores बैंक में आ गया. एक साल में 75 crores उड़ गया.
Almost all of it. About 1.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a great. I think it's good learning. It's very expensive. Yeah, but I had luckily the right people on the board, and they were like, let's steer this right before it's too late. You built a great business, go back to your basics, go back to exactly how you're running. Don't worry about your next round, which was quite the ecosystem ka storyline, So we changed it, We changed it within 3-4 months, became profitable again and never looked back.
And then you continue to double your business.
About 60% growth or so.
Amazing. At that वो size में 60-70% grow करना easy नहीं होता है.
Easy, देखो that वही है ना, easy है hard है doesn't matter. I mean, I think we gave a good attempt. We're building a very honest business. Aim is to continue doing it for the next 50 years. Take this, international, sell an Indian brand abroad. I think that's the biggest
dream. Yeah. No, but this is great. मुझे थोड़ा deep dive करना था ये section में जहाँ एक unprofitable company से profitable हो गए. कुछ महीना लगा आपको. How did you go about it? What are the changes that you had to make? Like truly, I know you said marketing, but it's way more than that.
It is way more. It's way. As I said, first a cultural shift. I think first is honesty with the team. We made a mistake, and when I say we, I have to say me and the founders, that we shouldn't have gone down this path. It erodes the brand.
How big was the team then?
I guess about the head office would be about 150 people or so. Still about 200 people, not too many more. We made a mistake. Let's own up to it. Let's change. And then a lot of people have their self-identity also associated with their work, right? So when you tell someone, listen, ये influencer marketing बंद करना है, so they are like, you'll get a lot of resistance. No, you don't understand how important it is. I'm like, look, I understand its importance, but it's not what the business needs right now. Also, I have a very, as you know, strong view on doing influencer marketing incorrectly. And I think we did it incorrectly. We had a lot of influencers wearing our products and dancing around, and people were just looking at them doing their thing versus what clothes they are wearing. Correct. Or anything like that. So I don't think it got any benefit.
The strategy didn't work out. How much did you spend? Because आप every time जब burn के बारे में बात कर रहे हो, आप influencer marketing.
But all that 70 CR would have gone into discounts and marketing. So that's the amount, in a year and a half. When we built the whole business with my 1.75 lakh personally is in, and my founders as well, co-founders, and that's all we took to build the business. And then, all of a sudden it just went wrong decisions.
Marketing, yes, on a cultural level. Anything else?
So marketing, not giving discounts, patience.
ऐसे कितना discount देते हो?
हम discount ऐसे देते नहीं थे, but at that point, for that 1 year, we decided कि growth के लिए, acquisition के लिए discount. And then, when you switched off the discount, you realized that customers also are not even price sensitive to a product. Because repeat customers really love us for our quality.
Correct.
And new customers want Harry Potter or Batman. And that 200 rupees doesn't matter.
Yes.
Especially when a brand has repute that, these people have good products. So it made no difference. We just burnt it. But convincing people took time, because we are quite a democracy in the way we run things.
And what happened to the business? यार आप 70-75 crores burn कर रहे थे एक साल में. Where did the business get to purely on a revenue level?
So I think we grew 60% every year since the pandemic.
So even in the year where you burnt money,
where you burnt also and when you didn't burn also. I think brands just take its own time to go. We could have grown more with the burning if we did it correctly, but we did it absolutely in a gloriously wrong way. So yeah.
And after you cut down the burn, after आप ये spend सारा कम कर दिए, you transition towards being a profitable business, you still continue to grow the same percentage.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Why?
I think we found good growth levers. 2-3 other. One, let me tell you product growth levers. When I think in 2018, about 90% of our products were about pop culture. By 22-23, it would be about 65-70. But now it's about 45. So our non-licensed stuff like the jeans grew. Then the shoes, sneakers have taken off really well. Very high quality, I think you can see. We make from the same people who would try and make your international brands. But we have one rule that it has to be India.
Has to be made in India.
Yeah, has to be in India. Because true impact now, if you want to make, it starts here.
Yeah.
So, working with these vendors to improve. So I think one is category growth, then is channel growth. Our offline stores actually do really well. They do so well, people think we lie. So every time we've raised money, every time we raised money, I remember, like I just mentioned Chirag Chadda, he said that his team didn't believe it, so they told him, you go to the Gurgaon store, you sit outside and see if this actually is happening. And he told me he did it. I didn't know, right? Like he told me in hindsight later. And he's like, I sat outside your store and I'm like, itne log ja rahe. So our stores do really well. We've not had one store till date which has lost money besides the pandemic period.
Wow.
In any month. All stores make money, period.
And can you help me with economics of a store? What is usually the rent? How many walk-ins to because I'm very intrigued. मैं ऑनलाइन बंदा हूँ, मुझे लैंडिंग पेज में इतने लोग आए, इतने कन्वर्ट समझ में आता है, बट स्टोर नहीं समझते.
So see, look, typical economics of a store are based on just two factors. What is the conversion when someone walks in? And then the second thing is, like in the economic part, it is what percentage is your rent of your revenue.
Correct.
And both are kind of interlinked. I used to think that our stores do really well because kya must algorithms honge apne. I used to think this, ki we used to, and we do have a lot of tech into which product should go on which shelf and how much should be there. And because we have a central warehouse, we can, every week we add more products and remove products from the store to make that very optimal. And I used to think this is the secret sauce. So when I went to this mall in Malad, we have a store there and there are all these big brands also. And then I realized I am completely wrong, because every other brand had bigger stores than us. And they had maybe 0 to 1 customer in each store. I was just there as a layman, standing and looking. And then I saw our store which had 15 to 20 people. All bahut bhara hua tha. And that's when I realized that it is a product market fit, which people think it's like for maybe young kids or something like that. But our TG goes across from all genders to all age groups, because even if you're 50 and you love Batman, now you will walk in. And the quality, price point and design is just so easy to pick up that you most likely will walk out with something. So we have high conversion. So we have high walk-ins and high conversions. And that's why our stores do really well. Product market fit. Agar aapko offline store chalu karna hai, so the number one metric which most people see is revenue per square foot.
Interesting.
Per month, per year, whatever. And then different industries have different revenue per square foot. But this is the main number to understand if your store will be profitable or no. Because rent is usually, like in a good area, bad area, depending on like walk-ins, it will be anywhere from about 300-400 rupees a square foot to like the best would be about 1,000-1,200 rupees a square foot.
So आपका rent cost 12,000 हो रहा है एक साल का.
Correct.
Fair fit,
but I think 12,000 is like the topmost. Average would be about, I would assume about 3,500-4,000 rupees a square foot per year.
Per year.
Yeah.
So 10% is your rent of a store.
11-12%.
11-12%. और staff ये सब मिला के शायद 20% होता होगा सारा कुछ मिला के.
Correct.
अच्छा. And stores में तो acquisition cost नहीं होता है.
Stores वो rent होता है in a way, in a way like your CAC gets replaced by rent.
Correct.
in a store. So your gross margin, whatever, like for us royalties, that remains the same. Then logistics would obviously be much lower for stores because you send in bulk, but much lower. Then you can say that logistics plus CAC for stores is rent and the time value of capex. ये थोड़ा टेक्निकल हो गया.
मतलब वो पैसा अगर एफडी में डाल देता तो कितना
आता केपेक्स, और जो डिपॉजिट हम देते हैं ना 5-6 महीने का,
वो साइजेबल होता है. हाँ, हमारे उसको amortize करना पड़ता है.
करेक्ट, क्योंकि वो तो अटक गया पैसा, एंड अनलेस यू शट द स्टोर वो तो गया अभी पैसा, यू नो. तो you take the opportunity cost of that.
So when I compare online and offline, margin कहाँ ज़्यादा है?
CM2, like
CM2.
हाँ, CM2 is the same for us. Both are around 30%.
आपको ऐसे कब लगा कि आपका PMF हो गया?
हाँ, देखो, it didn't happen. There was no aha moment. Every day we try and better our product. You know, little by little by little. I'll give you an example of how intense we are about our product. Let's say that if this t-shirt was us and अपना return rate usually say 8-9% है right now. Industry is at 30-40%.
30%?
Myntra and all,
हाँ, actually मैं मतलब same t-shirt 2 size का खरीदता हूँ एक ही बार में और एक return करता हूँ.
Correct. तो हाँ, your sample set is 50. तो you know, suppose if we are at, let's assume 10% and this is at 15. So the first thing we will do is, why is this gone to 15? Let's try and get our, you know, first analysis on it, like an FIR, you know, first report. फिर हम customers को call करेंगे कि आपने return क्यों किया. Then we will also call the customers, आपको क्या लगा, the ones who didn't return, कि अच्छा था, what could we have bettered. तो by this we try and get an understanding कि, you know, वो sleeve थोड़ा लंबा है, कि ये चेस्ट थोड़ा टाइट हो रहा है यहाँ पे, कि ये आर्म होल थोड़ा छोटा है, जो भी है, वट एवर इट इज, एंड देन वी विल बेटर इट बाय दैट स्मॉल अमाउंट, एंड देन अगेन आफ्टर 3 months वी विल चेक.
Third pillar, we spoke about 2 pillars so far. First is category expansion, जो t-shirt, pants, shoes.
Yeah.
Second one was offline, and you are at some 30 stores, right? अभी
27. Yeah.
27 stores. So I अगर offline के बारे में बात करेंगे शायद एक एपिसोड ही हो जाएगा उसके बारे में.
Oh yeah.
And what is the third pillar?
Third and fourth both are nascent. TG expansion and geographic expansion.
Okay.
TG expansion is, we've just gotten into kids about 6-8 months back. It's in its experiment phase. So kids is what we want to go into next. We started, traction अच्छा है, तो शायद से वो भी.
Obviously बच्चों को तो पहनना है ना Iron Man के t-shirt.
But you know, one of my biggest insecurities is कि हाँ, सोल्स तो बच्चे का ब्रांड जैसे नहीं लगना चाहिए. So वो सेपरेट उसका ब्रांडिंग और सब, इंस्टा पेज और सब अलग होता है.
आप सोल स्टोर किड्स बुला रहे हो कि और ही कुछ बोल रहे हो?
जूनियर, हाँ, सोल स्टोर जूनियर. Yeah. And the geographic expansion. So we will launch internationally our website, I think in the next 1-2 weeks.
Oh, nice. Good luck.
Yeah. But the aim is to have a store, you know, in New York. Actually New York. मैं अभी New York जाके आया और 5th Avenue पे हम like यार यहाँ तो अपना store भी चलेगा. क्योंकि बहुत it's very relatable to a, you know, overall audience.
And pop culture is 100 times bigger.
Correct.
In the West.
Correct.
I want to slightly jump into one thing that intrigued me जब आप unit economics break कर रहे थे और बोला कि आपने यार कुछ 10% आपका CAC है, performance CAC, which is mind blowing according to me because मैं भी जो business चलाता हूँ वो काफ़ी performance dependent है. What is that you're doing differently कि यार आपका CAC इतना कम है? Time of business. Time.
We've been here for 11 years doing the same thing again and again every day in a very solid way. You can't beat time. Abhi Soul Stores, I'm not going to say it's a household name, but it's well known.
Very well.
The second thing is that we have a very high repeat rate.
How much is that?
About 74-75% of our revenue comes from repeat customers.
Wow.
You know,
wow, that's incredible.
Correct. You can spend all the money, make Ranveer Singh dance on TV or do Hotstar ads, whatever it is, and you will get that customer one time. But to know if you have a real business is if you have repeat rate, because then the customer not only purchase the product at a certain price, They're willing to purchase it again at the price you're offering, and that's the best vote of confidence that ये business है.
All right. So अभी in the business that you are in, it has got very very hot. पहले तो 2-3 brands थे, अभी बहुत सारे brands हैं. The streetwear brands, fast fashion, and अभी आपने बोला कि आपका जो fandom kind of business है वो 40% है. The other 60% is actually what we wear on a daily level.
Correct.
Right? How are you looking at the competitive landscape?
So I think apparel is something that will always be competitive. If you want to say how many people are there selling apparel, I don't think you'll be the only person. This is not like a Amazon, Uber, winner takes all market,
Correct.
But the way we look at it is what differentiates us. A few things. One, the pop culture, as you said. I think today we have over, honestly, I don't even know this number, but I know at some point it was 200-300 characters in terms of licenses that we have. And that's one moat, right? Because now if someone wants to come and start selling a TV show merchandise, or if Disney has a new superhero coming up or whatever it is, they will first come to us. Why? Because one, they know that the customer is looking at us. Two, we have that distribution and we will give them that quantity. But the third and the most important one is actually that we take care of their brand really well. They know that sold stock quality will be good if it's our product. They know that at the end of the day, they will not market this product badly. They will not misuse the name, misuse the brand guidelines. I think that's the reason we have a moat out here. And the same product, and then they may buy solids. Come for the fandom, but stay for the quality. And
no, makes sense. If I'm someone who is starting a store or online store on merchandise, apparel and all, what are the 5 things जो मेरे दिमाग में रहना चाहिए कि यार ये 5 चीजें सोच के करना पड़ेगा?
First is differentiator. Okay, if you don't have a differentiator, then you have to have a lot of money. And just know that Reliance and Aditya Birla both are big in the fashion industry, so you're not going to have more money. So first get a differentiator. I think the second would be, once you have the differentiator, make sure it actually works. So get that product market fit. Do people really want this product that you have, or this style or range or aesthetic, whatever it is, whatever you're doing?
How would I get to know? By talking to the people?
I think by trying small and talking to people. Talking to people gives you some level of confidence, but let me tell you, and we also started this way, when someone says this is a good product, but when money comes, it's a very different game. Someone has to be willing to put real money to get that product. And not your friends and family, absolute strangers. So I think that, I would just say experiment small. And let me just tell you one thing, that whatever you're really going to set out with, you're going to learn a lot more in that experiment. So you make the changes. Don't be very hard about your beliefs. Third, I would say, is how you manage your inventory. 90% of apparel companies shut down because of poor inventory management.
क्या मतलब है उसका? Manage inventory मतलब क्या है?
What's selling, how much to keep of what's selling, will it go out of trend? If it is, then you're just stuck with products that are out of trend and nobody wants them, then you have to discount it. If you discount it, then your brand looks like a cheaper brand, then you can't sell it back at other products at a higher price. And then sometimes you're building for growth and you keep a lot of depth in certain SKUs, but you didn't get that growth. Now what are you going to do with those SKUs? Your payables come up. So I think inventory management is just the most important.
First 3 मिल गया और?
Man, you put me on the spot. But I think चौथा है brand. Long game खेलो, short game मत खेलो. Trends can come and go, but a brand should stay. And I've seen that at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who build long brands. Like Levi's, I think, is doing 150 years. And I really look up to that because they don't fluctuate on trends. They stick to who they are, why they exist, and they continue with it. They also evolve with time, but they don't go just because there's a trend. And I think stick to your brand. Last is institute बनाओ. Build an institute that can outlast you. क्योंकि अगर आप founder हो ना, तो you will fall sick, you want to take a break, you want to travel, or there are too many decisions to take. Build an institute that is just there with the same principles that you want, but at a larger lever. I think these 5, and I don't think I've given anything smart, just the basic 5 ones.
No, but I think they're the right ones. Yeah, this has been so much fun so far. What are your plans? Like 400 crore revenue पहुंच गया आप, profitable हो. What are the plans? IPOs, expansion, category expansion, revenue expansion. How is Soul Store going to look like 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think to be honest, now 1 year at a time. This year maybe 400 will be like 600ish or whatever, and then
Crazy.
we will take it on, so on and so forth. In the next 2-3 years, the plan is to have at least 100 stores in India.
Wow.
Our stores do well, so a lot of people have said it's a mistake you don't have already and stuff like that, but we'll take our time because we love doing it right or safe, whatever you want to use. Definitely IPO is also on the cards. We have a good business, a profitable business. I think the way to unlock value for your investors and yourself is by going public.
Absolutely.
I don't look at that as an exit for myself for sure. I don't think my investors do either. I think it's more of a validation, and maybe if you want to raise money, it's a cheaper way to raise money.
That's very interesting. I mean, just for the IPO story, right? Like what happened to Zomato is just crazy post IPO.
Correct.
Right? The brand love just went up. Log have respected the brand even more post the IPO, and they want to support the brand because they bought a stock. It's crazy.
So, and I love that about the fact that we are also a consumer product.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the brand love will come there. The trust also goes higher. I think it's a halo effect all around, and we are excited for the IPO. But as I said, I think the main aim in about 4-5 years is to have at least, I don't know what that percentage is, the aim. Like I was writing it down just today, ironically, 50% of our revenue in 5 years should be international.
Got this.
Yeah, we are slightly patriotic in a way that, we want to sell an Indian brand abroad.
India sell to the world.
Make in India, sell to the world. So, I've been to China once and I'm going to go again. But our main reason to go there is, वो लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, यहाँ करना है. Like, we actually, this time we're going with, last time we went just to explore, this time we're going with the manufacturers we have to take them there and see like, look, these are the processes and all, because we want to do that in India.
100 stores, IPO,
international.
Thousands of crores of revenue, hopefully, international.
If everything goes well.
But what scares you the most as a founder? I'm assuming, I'll take a wild guess. Counterfeits, losing contracts of a Game of Thrones.
That doesn't scare us, I think.
Counterfeits does?
Yeah, we are very big stack bully. We like in that place. We are like, if not us, then who else? If it comes. But the counterfeits. So in our country, it's very hard to really do anything about it. You can't really sue people successfully or economically viably.
That concept doesn't exist.
You can't. It's a form of validation that people want this, and there are now a ton of counterfeits. First, the counterfeits used to be same product, like lower quality, but the design used to be similar. People used to copy. But now we are seeing that our logo is only counterfeited. Like there's like different products which we never made, and people are using our logo.
So your brand is being copied like Nike.
Yeah, and that's great.
That's great validation.
That's great validation. What we want to just make sure is that people can see the difference in the actual quality of product that there is, and they understand because our price is so similar. Like in an Armani or a Nike, the price points are just so different that it's okay. But our price points are similar, but the quality is very different, just like those. So actually, I don't even know why people buy counterfeits.
Because they don't know they're counterfeits, maybe.
No, it's pretty obvious. When you feel it and touch it, it's very obvious when you see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The part that I love about our conversation abhi tak na, I can see a lot of similarities of मैं कैसे मेरा बचपन कैसा था और मेरा एजुकेशन कैसा था टू बिल्डिंग अ बिजनेस टू वेर यू आर राइट नाउ. लेकिन मुझे लगता है मैं कहीं बीच में हूँ. I'll tell you what I'm trying to say. आपका बिजनेस एक प्रॉफिटेबल बिजनेस था. You raised capital, but you learned a ton there, and then आप प्रॉफिटेबल बन गए again. That's a journey I'm in right now. प्रॉफिटेबल था, raised $5 million, grew the business. Now at a point of time where we want to grow profitably.
Yeah.
What is your advice for someone like me or for me?
See, I think there are two types of founders, and people keep switching between the two. Are you doing this for the long term, or are you doing this to get a valuation and sell the company? Valuation and sell the company, just grow. वैल्यूएशन आएगा. ओके, देयर इज नो मोर एडवाइस आई हैव बिकॉज आई डोंट इवन थिंक. बट इफ यू आर डूइंग दिस फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म, ये लॉन्ग यू नो, तो एक ही एडवाइस है, आप प्रॉफिटेबल बनो. ग्रो छोड़ो, प्रॉफिटेबल बनो. बिकॉज अगर आप प्रॉफिटेबल नहीं हो, ओके, एट सम स्केल ऑब्वियसली, और यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स नहीं है, तो आपके पास बिजनेस ही नहीं है.
दैट इज ट्रू.
अच्छा, ये प्रोडक्ट अगर आप डिस्काउंट में दे रहे हो और फुल प्राइस पे नहीं, तो ये प्रोडक्ट ही नहीं है. क्योंकि फुल प्राइस पे लोग लेंगे नहीं लेंगे, उनका वैल्यू है कि नहीं पता ही नहीं लोग को, आपको ही नहीं पता. सो फर्स्ट जस्ट बी प्रॉफिटेबल. व्हेन यू बिकम प्रॉफिटेबल, आप में डेयरिंग आ जाती है. क्योंकि यू कैन ट्राई न्यू थिंग्स. व्हेन यू आर बर्निंग ऑलरेडी, यू हैव टू बर्न मोर टू ट्राई न्यू थिंग्स. नींद भी अच्छी आती है. टेक इट फ्रॉम मी, मेन तो वो है. एंड देन यू नेवर हैव टू थिंक of external capital to keep your business alive. So you never take short-term decisions. You build the business exactly how you're dreaming of it, how you want to do it, what's good for you, what's good for the consumer, and not what's good for investors and MIS. And वो makeup नहीं लगाना है business पे. Actual strong sustainable business बनाना है, profitable बनाओ. और अगर ये प्रॉफिटेबल आपने बनाया तो यू एनीवेज विल गेट कैपिटल टू ग्रो, और यू विल एनीवेज ग्रो. अगर अच्छा प्रोडक्ट है, ओके, लोग को लग रहा है कि इसमें वैल्यू है, तो ग्रोथ तो आएगा ना. देश तो बहुत बड़ा है. वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट डिविडेंड्स वी हैव इज द जनता. मेक यूज ऑफ इट.
Fair. This was super helpful. Thank you so much. This was such a lovely conversation.
No, thank you.
मुझे तो
man.
बहुत सीखने को मिला.
हाँ यार, आई थिंक समटाइम्स जब हम ये बातें करते हैं, I also reiterate what's important in my head, you know.
I'm glad. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.